Hello, SquawksHead here with another video on this Ka-50 Black Shark helicopter. In this video I'd like to talk about the Inertial Navigation Unit, the INU. And it's important that we talk about this because following the introduction of the Black Shark 3, we now have to manually align the INU. Prior to the Black Shark 3 we had a perfectly aligned INU and we could use this PVI 800 without problems, fly across the map to waypoints with accuracy and precision. However, that is no longer the case. Now, it's a bit of an elephant in the room, the INU. Some people absolutely hate it, some people love it for its realism. But what I intend to do with this video is break it down, show you how you can correct for errors, and give you a fighting chance at actually flying over your waypoints that you've set. So, what I want to do, I've got a hot started Ka-50 here, and this is hot started with a fast alignment. Now I suggest that most of you probably will be aligning this in the accelerated mode, as it's called, because that only takes 3 minutes during startup. If we did a normal alignment, that would take 15 minutes. If we did a precision alignment, that would take 20. So I doubt many people are going to want to sit here for 20 minutes to get a more precise alignment of the INU. Well, fear not. What we can do while we're flying en route to a waypoint, if we notice we're drifting or we're not at the correct heading, etc., we can do various things to try and get us back on track, and I'm going to show you that in this video, how to do that. The first thing we need to really talk about are the 3 different modes. So as I've mentioned, we have the accelerated mode of alignment, we have the normal mode of alignment, and the precision mode. Now, in my startup tutorial I show you how to align the INU, and it's quite simple. As part of the startup process, what we do is we turn this knob here from off to operation. We don't worry about clicking any buttons on there. What we do is we go to the back panel here, we flip the INU on, this button here, and the INU heat on, and then the standby SAI or attitude indicator, and then we just wait. We get some letters up here on the HUD and we wait for 3 minutes, and when they disappear, hey presto, the INU is aligned in the accelerated mode, if you like. Now, if you were going to align in the normal mode during the startup procedure, you put this knob to operation, you would hit this button here, INU norm, you would turn on the INU here, the INU heat would go on, also the standby SAI would go on, and then we would wait, and we'd wait 15 minutes. You get various letters and text come up here, don't worry about that, and also flags would come up on here, but we wouldn't worry about that. We would wait until the INU normal button started flashing again, at which point we click it, and then we have a normal alignment, and that takes 15 minutes. And it's the same for the precision alignment, which takes 20 minutes. So if you haven't seen my startup video, do go to that and have a look at it, and that'll take you through that process. Right, let's say we've started our Ka-50 Black Shark, we've aligned the INU in the accelerated mode, and what we want to do now is, before we take off, there is something that's quite vital that we need to do. Well, there's actually several things. The first that I want you to do is to go to the F10 map. I want you to look at your Ka-50 on the ground. I want you to click on it, and it'll tell you the heading. We're not interested in the magnetic heading. We're interested in the heading. It's on the bottom left of the screen. You can't really see it on mine, but it's 209 in my case. And I want you to go back into the cockpit. I want you to look down here over to the right, and I want you to turn this all the way to 209. It's going to take a little while, so bear with me. Let's turn this to 209. Keep turning it, keep turning it, keep turning it. Here we go. 209 was our heading. There we go, we'll pop it there. Once we've done that, if you look down at the HSI, you can see here that this is at 219er. Well, it's almost 220, pretty much, you can see here. So This is not in alignment. So once you've put your actual heading, your true heading, into this dial here, what I want you to do, I want you to go over to this switch here. Now this switch tells the Black Shark to make adjustments, a correction to its heading. So we're going to flip that down to manual. And when we do that, if you look over here, you'll see, look, the HSI has actually moved to 209. So now this HSI is actually pointing the direction we're pointing. Once you've done that, I want you to flip it back up to gyro. So just to recap, go to the F10 map, look at our heading, our true heading, then put our true heading into here, then click this down to manual, and then click it back up to gyro. And what will happen is the HSI will point the correct direction that you're heading. That's absolutely essential if we're to use the PVI 800 and the INU to navigate across the map. So the next thing we need to do, which is essential before we take off, is to make sure that this ABRIS here, this satellite navigational unit, is speaking the same language as this PVI 800. If you look here, let's just put in waypoint 1 for instance, you'll see some coordinates. Now on the PVI 800, these coordinates are in decimals of a minute. So we need to make sure that this has the same system as that, and to do that we need to go to option, we need to go to setup, scroll this knob to units, right click it, and you look up here, you'll see latitude is in degrees, minutes and seconds. Well, we don't want that, so let's hit the knob. There we go. Now it's degrees, minutes and decimal minutes. Let's scroll down to the next one and right click. So now our latitude and our longitude are exactly the same as the PVI 800. So let's go back to the nav. Now next we need to go to the F10 map. And you'll see in the top left hand corner of the map some coordinates, and if you look up there, they're in degrees, minutes and seconds, and we need to change that to degrees, minutes and, you've guessed it, decimal minutes. So to do that we press left alt Y twice. Now we can head back into the cockpit. Now everything's speaking the same language. Now we've made course corrections to our heading. We can take off and start heading towards a waypoint. One thing to mention before we get off the ground is that the ABRIS, this device here, and the PVI 800, because they're independent systems, when we plot waypoints on the ABRIS, or certainly on the mission editor, if they do populate into this PVI 800, which they do in the mission editor, they won't have the same waypoint number, just to confuse you even more. The waypoint number 1 is your starting position on the ABRIS. Waypoint number 1 on the PVI 800 is actually waypoint number 2. So if you do plan a mission in the mission editor and you plot waypoints, be aware that waypoint 1 on the PVI 800 is actually waypoint 2 on the ABRIS. Right, now we've done that, let's take off and let's start heading towards waypoint 2 on the ABRIS, but 1 on the PVI 800. Right, here we go. Now what I intend to do once we're off the ground is I'm going to put this into route mode. So basically I'm going to be telling the autopilot of this aircraft to take me to the waypoint that I've selected on the PVI 800. And to do that, let's just get some forward motion going on. Okay, as long as we're relatively stable and at a decent speed, this should work. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to switch route mode on down here. There we go. And just for good measure, I'm going to put autopilot altitude hold on. Right, you'll see there's a little diamond up here pointing to our first waypoint, which is actually waypoint 2 here. So we're heading to waypoint 2. The PVI 800 is telling the aircraft, based on the data it's got, to head to this waypoint. Now what you may well notice as we approach is that we're slightly off track. Let's have a look. because we aligned the INU in the accelerated mode, which is going to give us the most errors. And if you imagine, small errors in the INU at the beginning of the flight will become big errors later on. The longer we fly, the bigger those errors will be. They'll be exacerbated. So here we are. We're heading over. We're not doing too badly at the moment. So as we approach this waypoint, we're going to transition to waypoint 2 on the PVI 800, which is over here, waypoint 3. So here we are. We're heading this way rather than towards this waypoint. So there are two ways we can correct for errors. To do this, we need to know the coordinates of a fixed point, and the easiest way to do that is on the F10 map. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find... Now, of course, you can do this, you can set these fixed points in advance of taking off, which I advise is probably a good idea, near to your route. Landmarks, basically, that you can use to recalibrate the INU. Okay, so I know we're heading to waypoint 2, which is at the corner of this patch of woodland, but there's nothing really here for me to sort of calibrate against. But what I have got here is there's a building here to the east of it, and I'm going to use this building here to tell our INU the coordinates of that fixed point there, and that should recalibrate our INU. So to do that, I need to go back into the cockpit, down here, turn this knob into ENT mode. We need to hit fixed point. Fixed point number 1 is the one we're going to be using. Then we're going to hit 0, and let's grab some coordinates from the F10 map. Now you can do this on the ABRIS as well. If you're used to using the ABRIS, you can get the coordinates from there. Right, this building is at 34137. 3413.7. Now, to get to the eastings, we have to hit 0 twice, and we can enter the eastings. So we go to the map, eastings of 3539.7. So 3539.7. Once we've entered that into our fixed point number 1, we can hit enter. And what you'll see here is you get a message up here saying perform nav position fix, and this is really useful. If you've pre-plotted this in advance rather than during flight as we are now, you'll get a warning coming up saying perform nav position fix, because it knows you're approaching that fixed point, so it lets you know you're getting near to it. So and then you can embark on these different ways of correcting for errors. Right, next we need to go to operation mode, fixed point number 1. There we are. That's that house. We need to tell the PVI 800 that we're going to recalibrate it using the Schwal. So we click that up to the I251 Victor. If we were going to do it by overflying, which I'll show later, we would have that switched down. So up to tell us we're going to do it via the Schwal. Next, we can arm the laser, because we're going to need that laser to lock on for the distance, and then we can uncage the Schwal. Now, of course, I've got active pause on here, and this can be done in flight. Once you get used to it, it really isn't that difficult. But for the tutorial and explaining, I've paused it. So if we look down here, we can see, let's just make sure we're en route. Here we go. We know that our waypoint is near this little orchard that you'll see down here. Okay, here we go. There it is there. So I know the corner of that orchard on the F10 map is here. So I know to the east of that there's a house. And this is the house that we knew the coordinates of and we put in as our fixed point. So let's go back to the Black Shark. So if we head east, have a looking around, where is that? There it is. There's that house there. If you look there, there's the house. So that's the house we knew the coordinates of, and that's been entered into this fixed point here. So we're going to make this box a little bit bigger. Now we're going to hit the lock target button on our cyclic. You'll see a TA has come up there, much the same as if you were locking on to fire a Vickers. It's got a range here of 1.2 kilometers to that point, and all we now need to do is hit the uncage Schwal button again, which is also the target designate button. They're both the same. And if you look on the HUD as we do that, COP comes up. You might have seen along the heading tape a slight movement as well. What we've just done, we've just told the PVI 800 or the INU that the coordinates of that house. So once you've got COP up here, you can press this reset button to reset the system. We can turn the laser off. And we can continue our flight. And what you'll find, let's just set waypoint 2 because that's where we were heading. Let's unpause. Watch what happens. Okay, we're unpausing. Look, we're moving to the right. We're getting back on track. Because we told the PVI 800 we were off track and that house was these coordinates, it's used that data to tell us, well, to certainly correct the error, and we're heading towards that waypoint. Now, we still might be a little bit off, but we're much more precise than we were. There we go. So that is one way to realign the INU during flight. Just to recap, on the PVI 800, remember, we entered a fixed point that we knew the coordinates of, which was that house. Then we told the PVI 800 that we're going to correct for errors using the Schwal. So we flicked that switch up. We turned on the laser. We uncaged the Schwal. We found the house. We locked it using the lock button. And then we hit the uncage button again. And up here was the word COP. And it realigned the INU. Then we hit reset. And we continued on our journey by pressing waypoint 2. Okay, so there you go. That's how you can realign the INU in flight. I'd say realign, but what I really mean is correct for errors. The alignment process was actually done at the very beginning when we started up, but they're much of a muchness. So for the overfly method, it's quite similar. We're going to reacquire that house, and I'm going to show you how to do it via overfly. So we know the coordinates of that house from earlier, so we're going to go to fix point 1. So that's that house. Okay, the second way we can realign the INU or account for errors is by the flyover method. And the way we do that is very similar to how we did with the Schwal, but this time we're just going to, as we fly over the fixed point that we know the coordinates of, in this case the house, we're going to enter them into the PVI 800, and the way we do that is this way. So if you look down here, I'm in active pause again just to make this a little bit easier to talk to you and do it. If we look at our fixed point 1, there it is. We know that's the coordinates of the house we saw on the F10 map here. And you'll see we're pretty much over it. So we knew the coordinates of this, and we entered them in to the fixed point number 1, which is there. And we're flying over it. Now, as you fly over, make sure you have got this button here switched to over. That says to the PVI 800 that you'll be going to fix the INU via overflying. Then we're going to select fix point number 1. And all we do now, as we overfly it, is we press the uncaged Schwal button. And as you do, that disappears. And that's it. And you've done effectively the same as you did with the Schwal. You've recalibrated the INU and told it where we should be rather than where it thinks we are. Okay, I do hope that makes sense, and honestly, if you have any questions or you're confused by any of this, please do mention it in the comments below. I'll try and assist where I can. But once you get used to accounting for those errors during flight, you'll realise it's not so much of a big deal. A lot of people ignore the PVI 800, and it's sad really, because it's such a good device. It's a good tool for the aircraft. You can just rely on this ABRIS here because it's satellite navigation system, but the PVI 800 really is such a good way because it controls the autopilot of the helicopter and can take us to the waypoints that we designate, even if it was dark. You know, there were terrible conditions and we couldn't see, you know, limited visibility, that sort of thing. The PVI 800 will really help us out in those situations. So get used to it. Get used to realigning the PVI 800 over a fixed point or via the Schwal while you're en route, and see how you get on. Anyway, until the next video, I bid you adieu, and hopefully we'll catch you in multiplayer soon. Bye bye for now.